family, to another episode of the Backdoor Cut Show, a NBA Grizzlies podcast brought to you by the Barnburner Podcast Network and Nothing But Nets Dash Radio. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, all those fun places. Right now, we're streaming live on Periscope and YouTube, so I get to look at Mason and his awesome Tony Allen poster. So you guys should follow _Barnburner on Twitter. And next time we go live, set it up, get a notification, check us out, leave us some comments, interact with us. Make this thing pretty fun. So I'm Zach. I'm here with Mason. How are you doing, man?
Man, what a week in Memphis sports. We had Mike Conley's return to the Grindhouse, which was accompanied by Tony Allen's return as a fan. And you can see Tony in my background here. How do I do? There we go, right
There
there.
you go. It's like a green screen for
Yeah.
weatherman.
Memphis football won, moved to 9-1, beat Houston. Always a fun thing to do. Two more games left. Hopefully, we'll be going to the Cotton Bowl at the end of December. And then Memphis Tigers basketball, even though they had the tough loss to Oregon, showed some promising signs and then bounced back by drilling poor Alcorn State on Saturday.
Yeah.
And our Grizzlies had a 3-game winning streak led by Ja Morant, the front runner for Rookie of the Year. So a good week all in all for Memphis sports.
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about. The Oregon loss for the Tigers was kind of a bummer, but we can't get that greedy. I mean, we can be that greedy, but we're still getting a lot. So that's
Yeah.
and I think we got many happy days ahead of us.
Yeah, so now we just gotta await the appeal of James Wiseman, see how many games the NCAA is gonna give him. Hopefully, it'll only be 3, 5 games, something like that, and he'll get back on the court in time to play at Thompson Bowling Arena when we beat the hell out of Tennessee.
Oh man, that's gonna be a tough game. Those guys knocked off Washington this weekend.
Don't care.
It's still gonna be a tough game though. Those two teams just gonna get after it, and it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, you're right. All right, we can go ahead and get into the Grizz now.
All right. Let me get this done. So early in the week, had an exciting game against the Spurs. Pulled off. Tony Parker was having his jersey retirement party at I don't know. I don't know what their arena's named actually.
AT&T.
AT&T, some big corporate sponsor. Yeah, AT&T. So the Grizzlies went in and spoiled that, pulled a dub out of San Antonio, which is never freaking easy to do. Just obviously always a well-coached team. They have people like Patty Mills, who's always been a Grizz killer. He always can go. He can go for 30 against us at any given time, which I'm very surprised that he only had 9 points in that game, but that was very fortunate. So what'd you see in that one, Mason?
Yeah, I mean, the Spurs are kind of struggling right now. They really couldn't get anything going, but from the onset, we came out feeding Jaren Jackson Jr. It made it seem like that was something that the coaching staff had emphasized, was to get him going in this game against San Antonio. He finished with 24 points, 6 boards, 5 assists, probably his best game of the year to date. He hit 4 threes, played 37 minutes, which is a key because we've been saying all along, if he can stay on the court, he's going to be productive, which, throughout the week we saw some really good Jaren and we saw some mediocre Jaren. But in this game in San Antonio in particular, he was playing with Tyus Jones a lot more, it seems like. He's kind of staying in with that second unit, which is something that I've noticed throughout the week, which we noticed when Josh set out, Tyus fed Jaren and really got him going for his first good game of the season. But Brandon Clark, another one, he's impressive. 14 and 8 on a ever so efficient 6 of 7 shooting, which is turning out to be a bad night for BC.
Anytime it doesn't find the bottom of the net, man, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I know. And he came into this game in San Antonio and he immediately hit a 3. And then on the very next possession, he was in the low post on the opposite side of the ball. And he noticed his man was helping on whoever was posting up. So he flashed right to the high post, was wide open, knocked down his patented mid-range jumper. And, man, he's just been a pleasure to watch. Like, Brandon Clark is definitely the steal of the draft so far. And at some point, you feel like he's got to come crashing back down to earth because his efficiency has just been outrageous so far this season.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll get into some of his efficiency later, but yeah, every good team that is winning needs a guy like him on your team who can do anything, guard multiple positions. The one thing that for sure will come back down to normal is his 3-point percentage. That's like astronomically high right now. Granted, he's taken like I feel like he's taking good shots. That has a lot to do with it. When you got like Dylan, for example, out there, or like Crowder, who just shooting it. Every time they get the ball, they're looking to shoot it, whether they're like 20% open or so, but they're going to let it fly. Whereas Brandon is not going to shoot that ball unless he knows in his mind that he has a super high percent chance of getting it in.
Yeah, yeah. And in this game, Dylan had 21. Jonas Valanciunas had 18 and 12. He really came on this week strong. Is starting to consistently be that double threat that he's been throughout his career. So overall, just a good win in San Antonio and going down there and ruining Tony Parker's jersey retirement. It's only fitting because he seems like he took the soul out of Memphis fans time after time when he was playing for the Spurs. So glad we could finally ruin something for old Tony.
Tony and Coach Tim Duncan. That's funky. I don't remember him having he's got like fancy hair now. I don't remember him having that when he was playing, did he?
No, he definitely didn't have that when he was playing.
He just had like a shaved head, I thought.
Yeah, I mean he didn't have a shaved head, but he didn't have the twist in his head.
Okay. I just
maybe
make sure
maybe it's like a midlife
something.
crisis or something, Like he's missing the game, so he's growing his hair out.
Is he wearing fitted suits now? That would be like another sign of him.
I don't feel like he's really wearing suits, but I can't remember. I know he was the head coach last night when Pop got ejected. So, yeah.
Wow, already the head coach.
Yep.
Good job for him.
But another thing in this game against the Spurs was Jaren had 11 field goal attempts inside the arc. So he wasn't just sitting out there shooting threes, bombs away. He was actually getting some shots in the low post, mid post, taking defenders off the dribble, which was encouraging to see and led to him having the aforementioned 24 points.
Yeah, that's definitely something that did not continue the rest of the week.
No.
And I know that was really getting you upset pretty much the rest of the week via text message. You're shouting for Jaren to get the ball. If only Ja could hear you.
Hey, somebody listen to me. Because it ain't Jay Crowder, I can tell you that.
Okay, so surprise. Surprise. So I looked up who has the most assists to Jaren, like who's passed him the ball the most and he scored buckets off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Jay is actually top. Jay and Moran are tied. I thought that was surprising.
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
but
then
I guess
was right under him.
He's probably played the most minutes with those guys, with Jay and Ja, and probably even Jay more so than Ja. But so that makes sense, yeah.
But I was really hoping that it would be from the eye test. It would say that Ja is not giving him the ball enough, and I would expect the point guard to have more assists to him. So that kind of the fact that he had the same amount as one of the wing players kind of made sense to me.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully that's just something that continues to develop over time. Like we said, we're not seeing a lot of the Ja and Jaren pick and roll. And it just seems like they're kind of so stuck in trying to run this offense that they're afraid to break off of it and let their natural basketball talents and abilities take over. They're just kind of trying to think through the system and, okay, I did this, now I'm supposed to do this. So with time, I believe that Ja and Jaren will be the dynamic duo that we've wished for. But right now, obviously, it's taking a little bit longer than we would like to see them to develop that chemistry on the court. But I still think there's plenty of time. We've got 60-something games left in this season. So
yeah, we're just like 10% through or something.
Yeah, but after San Antonio, the boys went on the road to Charlotte, or stayed on the road to Charlotte, and jumped out to a big start, 9-0. In this game, Ja had his first career double-double. It was just kind of back and forth shootout between two pretty mediocre teams. Was kind of my take on this game.
Yeah, pretty much. It was. So obviously, if we fast forward to the end, I think everyone knows that by this point that Ja had the game-winning shot. It was a layup, very contested layup with one of the Martin brothers right there, and another guy, I forget who it was, Zeller. And he somehow feeds the ball right between both of them, spins it off the backboard, hoops it in, and that was just so encouraging to me because I feel like so many times over the course of the year we don't know who the guy that's going to get the bucket is. It's been Mike, kind of, but it seems like he wasn't always wanting 100% to take that. He'd be perfectly fine driving, kicking out to someone to hit that shot. That would make him perfectly happy. Whereas Ja wants that bucket. He wants the ball 100% with the game on the line. And he took it in there and made it in his ninth game in the NBA. That was just so exciting. I had to be so hype after that game.
Yeah, and an incredible photo to go along with the moment of him, in between three Hornets defenders laying it up. And I mean, he got like such a soft bounce off the rim. It seemed like if anyone else laid that ball up, it would have bounced right off. But it was him, and it was his night. He had that. He had the move where he went behind the back to split the pick and roll, and then got the and one on Cody Zeller. He was just like time after time. You're just like, damn, like that's Ja Morant. And once he hit the game winner, he walked over to his dad and he said, "I do this. This is what the fuck I do." And so far, man, he really is. He's got that superstar mentality. Like you said, he wants to take the big shot, as we as we saw later in the week when he almost lost us the game against Utah because he just floated one up for Rudy Gobert to swat back to half court.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he had a great game. He had 23 and 11. He was 10 of 15 from the field. He's getting to the rim whenever he wants. He's still learning how to finish at the rim, but against a team like Charlotte, he can have his way with them. Just a really fun game. Again, Jonas Valanciunas had 18 and 13. Jaren, we saw him. He had 16 and 6. And he had just 9 attempts from the field. So coming off that San Antonio game, I was hoping to see Jaren continue to build, but he was more of just an afterthought. And in my game notes, I wrote, Jaren has Terry Rozier on him. Dylan forces a dumbass floater. So I think maybe that concerted effort to get him the ball kind of stayed in San Antonio.
And one really outlier that happened that game was Marco Guduric had 11 points in the third quarter, I believe.
Yeah.
And for the game, he was 4 of 6 from behind the arc, and he had 17 points. Pretty much an outlier, though.
Yeah, and
we haven't seen that since then.
And when after this game happened, I thought to myself, maybe I've been too hard on Marco one, because I feel like I haven't been grading him as I've been grading other rookies. I've been wanting to give Jaren this long leash and give him 20 games is what I keep saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Marco, I'm like, damn, this dude's trash. And then he has a game like that to remind me that he is just a rookie in the NBA, and he's going to have good moments and bad moments, and we need to give him more time to see how he's going to be. Much like with Dylan Brooks, to start the season, he was cold, and we kind of bashed him.
Oh yeah.
Even though this is really his second NBA season. Last year, he of course got hurt and missed most of the year. Played all 82 games his rookie year, but still his second season of NBA game time. So just a reminder that we got to be patient, even with those guys who we think are a little bit older. And they both shown flashes Dylan showing flashes of being a really good rotational player on a playoff team, and Marco showing flashes of, getting more opportunities.
The thing for Dylan is just he needs to be put in the situation for him to succeed, meaning he doesn't need to be, and it's also his own doing, is not driving the ball when it's unnecessary. If you don't have the shot, don't take the shot, don't force the shot. Let's keep running the offense. But he is capable of doing a whole bunch. So Dylan's first 2 weeks were pretty trash, but since then I think he's been one of the better guys on the team, for me at least.
Yeah. And then just to kind of close out the Hornets game, Brandon Clark another 13 and 6, just consistent.
In
Um,
21 minutes.
right. And then Solomon Hill was a plus 18, while Jaren Jackson was a minus 14. And then in my game notes for this one, I've got Jaren just 3 shots inside the arc. So whereas he had 11 in San Antonio, he had just 3. And I just don't understand it because the Hornets have no, you can't name someone on the Hornets roster that can guard Jaren Jackson. Maybe Marvin Williams, but that's it. Like it's ridiculous. Luckily, we got the win, but really, I feel like we should be a class above the Hornets, and we shouldn't be having to get last second wins. But you take it how you can get it. And it was a great moment for Ja Morant. I think something we'll all remember probably for the rest of his career. Providing he has a solid career in Memphis and it doesn't end, abruptly.
Crazy,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, and then after the Hornets game, the Grizzlies came home to face the Jazz and Mike Conley's homecoming. So was at that game. That was pretty awesome. The whole did a video montage, tribute video the first time out in the first quarter. When being introduced, after Mike was introduced, all his current teammates, they were super happy. They were super hyped. They were hugging him, high-fiving him. It was just a great atmosphere. Honestly, it felt like a playoff atmosphere, and like I missed that so much. But it's so much fun just having those intense games where you feel like it means something the whole game.
Yeah, and I mean that whole day leading up to the game, you had the Chris Harrington article about Mike and Ja like taking over. Then you had Mike and Tony on Chris Vernon's show, which it was just all in the fields, man. Like it's hard to believe that Mike Conley was really not on the team anymore, but um, he came in there and got that ass whooped just like we would do to anyone else. And he struggled. He was 5 of 15. You could tell he was kind of emotionally overwhelmed throughout the day. Even the day before, everyone was like, "Well, are you gonna cry?" And he's like, "I don't know. Like, I really don't know how I'm gonna feel when the moment happens." So, uh, another fun game. You were there. What were your takeaways?
So from that one, so Guduric actually he had a tough assignment. So Donovan Mitchell had 29 points and Guduric was guarding him, but that's obviously one of the better players on their team. So that was kind of tough for him. Gobert is a confusing person. I'm sitting with Sam and we're just talking, and it a lot of times it doesn't seem like he's doing that much. But then you look up, the man's got 23 and then 17 rebounds and 5 blocks. But it doesn't feel like he's consistently impacting the game. But like I get the rebounds and everything, yes, they're just coming right to him because his arms. I need to look up what his wingspan is. It's crazy because I'm pretty sure he can like touch the top of the square without jumping, and that's where most of his advantage comes from. Um, let's see what else. Yeah, Mike was a little juiced up. I think he wasn't hitting from deep. He was 2 of 8 from deep. A lot of his shots were long and short. He was having a really hard time finding his range. Dylan, Kyle, they both had really good games. Kyle put on a shooting clinic in one quarter. He only had
I
he
don't
had
know.
one
I don't know if we
three.
can ever call anything Kyle Anderson does a shooting clinic.
Well, I don't know if you want to copy his form necessarily, but he was draining in that quarter. He only had 1 3 in the game, but it sure seemed like a lot more because he was obviously shooting mid-range twos way too much. But he was 6 of 9 from the field, and in 22 minutes had 13.7 rebounds. So solid game by Kyle. Jonas was 10 and 8. He was a plus 10. He was very critical being in there with Gobert. When Jaren was in there with Gobert, he just couldn't. Jaren really struggled the whole game in the post. I don't have the numbers for how many times he got the ball in the post. I wasn't looking specifically at that, but it couldn't have been very much. And he just really struggled. He was 4 of 13. He took 6 threes, so half his shots were threes, and he didn't make any of them. So he ended the game fouling out. 9 points, and 7 rebounds. So he did kind of struggle with the physicalness of Gobert, O'Neal, even Bogdanovich a little bit. And so that was kind of concerning.
Yeah, but Ja Morant had 25 and he had some freaking highlight plays.
Yeah.
Uh, the first one was the behind the back move on Moutier, where he just went behind his back and then didn't take the additional step and filleted off the backboard. Then he had the one where he got the rebound, like he was fighting for the rebound and took two dribbles and just jammed it. And then he had a couple of other big plays. The one where he told Moutier that he was too small, the big bucket, to put the Grizzlies up. That was a nice one. And then like the camera gets him and he's like just saying he's too little.
Yeah.
Like for the first, we didn't even mention that was an ESPN game, his first nationally televised game of his career, and he finished with 25 and 8, and his team won against probably a top 4 seed in the Western Conference.
Yeah, it was one of those games where offensively, it seemed like the Grizz put a lot. Only 107 points, but you had a lot of guys contributing in this game. With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures. I mean, that's pretty spread out scoring. Only giving up 106 points. That was just a really good game. Everything kind of came together. We also didn't mention the Ja Morant alley-oop that he received.
Oh.
He didn't throw. I think it's Crowder threw it from about the wing and outside of the three-point line, throws it up. You can see Morant. You could see not Morant's eyes so much, but Crowder's eyes were getting like as big as saucers as he saw Morant creeping from the baseline towards the goal. Throws it up to him. Goes up, two-hand, yams it. And Jaren, like, what's funny is that Jaren was standing under the goal and, like, kind of went up and got one hand on it, but Ja was the one that went up and dunked the ball.
Yeah, I mean that was a nice highlight play for sure. And as they go back down the court, they're just kind of smiling at each other. And Jaren's like, "Damn, man, why'd you have to dunk on me like that?"
Yeah, it's just kind of like a goofy play, pretty much.
Yeah,
but it was enjoyable.
Yeah, so the 3 wins in a row, we call that a winning streak. If you would have asked me how many 3-game winning streaks I thought this version of the Grizzlies would have, I probably would have answered 0.
I would have said, yeah, absolutely. I would have said 0.
Especially
looking at the schedule, yeah, seeing the Spurs and the Jazz on either side of that winning streak, no way would I have called that.
Yeah, 2 on the road and the Jazz at home. That's impressive, and those are the type of stretches you're looking for in a season like this. Just so the guys learn how to win those games, learn how to close those games, learn how to believe in themselves and their teammates in those waning moments when you need a critical play, and learning how to get stops. We saw it in Utah with Solomon Hill. Donovan Mitchell had a last-second shot attempt. Solomon Hill poked it away. Maybe he fouled it. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not a ref.
I don't know.
I guess decent minds can disagree.
Did they put out a 2-minute report?
I think they said the call was correct.
Okay, so it was correct then. If New York, if Secaucus looked at it, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, who are we to disagree with that call? So
they're the professionals, right?
Yeah, but we definitely got away with one there. Donovan was, doing whatever he wanted to that against us for the most part. But 3 wins in a row, and let's just, before we talk about Sunday's game, because we got mollywopped by the Nuggets and it ended the winning streak. Is there anything from the winning streak that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I got a couple notes. So for this season, the Grizzlies overall are shooting 46%. During the winning streak, they're almost at 50%. So they bumped that up a few points. From 3, they were, for the season, we are shooting 33% on 30 attempts. During that stretch, 39% on 33 attempts. So not only a few more attempts, but 6 points higher. So that's a pretty big jump. And I think all these games were think the highest margin was 2 points, something like that. So every little point counted, and we were also scoring 4 more points than our average.
Yeah, yeah,
So it just has to do with tightening up a little bit on defense and then just being slightly more efficient on offense. Now, um, here's kind of something interesting. During that time, our net rating was 1.6, and and that was like middle of the pack, not super great, not super bad. For point of reference, the Bulls had, so that was when we went 3-0. The Bulls had a point 0.6 net rating, and they went 1-2. So really, it's pretty awesome to win those 3 games, but also we are a bounce or two away from not winning those games. So we do need to appreciate that. It's not like we handily won them. Do want to keep a reality check of like we hung in those games. I think that's the most important thing. And we made some clutch plays down the line, but by no means did we like dominate in those games.
yeah. And I mean, realistically, Utah and San Antonio both played complete stinker games, and then the other one was the Hornets, who have
They do
quite
stink.
possibly the worst roster in the league. So we do have to take that into account. But just to continue your tirade on stats, during that win streak, you mentioned the 3-point attempts. We were 16th in the league in 3-point attempts, but we were 8th in 3-point percentage. So we were making the most of those shots, and we were taking good shots. We were 4th in catch and shoot points in the NBA throughout the 3-game winning streak. We were 3rd in field goal percentage. So we were really just getting good shots and making the shots that we were taking. We were 5th in assists throughout the win streak, 11th in pace. So we weren't playing at that lightning fast pace we were to start the season. We kind of have
Settled in a
learned
little. Okay.
where to pick and choose our spots. And I think that's leading to, us staying in the games and not getting blown out, because we're not just jacking up a shot and then the other team's getting the rebound and getting a layup. So really just some interesting numbers, not doing a whole lot different, but just probably being more selective in the threes that we are taking. We mentioned getting Jaren more involved in the San Antonio game. We've seen JV become more involved offensively, and just not at that frenetic pace that we saw the first couple weeks of the season. One thing that is alarming is during the win streak, we were 29th in free throw attempts. So with all the pace and space, you would think we would be getting to the line more. And Ja, he's not gotten a few calls, but for the most part, I thought he's gotten a pretty fair whistle. Anything else during the win streak that stuck out to you? I mean, Ja averaged 19 and 7 and only 2 turnovers. So those are pretty damn good numbers.
He's really scaled back on the turnovers. I think that is definitely a big deal because that's points that we're just giving back.
Yeah.
And a couple of the games we really capitalized on other teams' turnovers.
Yeah.
So I didn't look up specifically points off turnovers, but I think that had a lot to do with our efficiency during those games.
Yeah, and just a couple other numbers. Jaren averaged 32 minutes per game during the win streak, the most on the team, which is a good thing to see. Ja was at 28, so Jaren was averaging 16 points, 6 boards, shooting 44% from 3. So while he hasn't been as good as we had hoped, he is, being a pretty solid NBA player. Right. And then Brandon Clark in just 19 minutes averaged 12 and 6 in those 3 games, and he shot 75% from 3, and like he maybe missed like 1 or 2 shots. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that guy's Brandon Clark is something else. Let's go into, that's a good segue into our studs and duds for the week. You want to go first? I'll let you take the reins on this one.
Yeah, I think I got to go Ja Morant with the game winner, the big plays against Utah, really just going toe-to-toe with Mike Conley and saying thank you for the franchise. Now have fun in Utah. So I'm going to give that to Ja Morant. First nationally televised game, averaged 19 points and 7 assists throughout the week. Just really big moments for him to lead us to those 3 wins, and I think he was the clear leader of the team in 2 of those games. Of course, in San Antonio, he got benched for Tyus Jones down the stretch, but I thought he really bounced back from that with 2 elite performances.
All right, so for me, I had to choose between Jonas and BC. Since we were just talking about BC, I'll elect him and I'll pile on some more good numbers. So I looked for the whole week. NBA had their stats updated through tonight's game, which he's about the only one where that benefited him.
Yeah.
But he was 14 points, 5.8 rebounds this week, in only 20 minutes per game. Guess what? For the week in the 4 games, what he shot from the field?
Like 92%.
Close. He shot 80% from the field, 83% from three for the week.
Because he was 8 of 8 tonight. He did not miss tonight versus the Nuggets.
Right. So before tonight, for the season, he's shooting 70% at the rim on 34 attempts and 70% on 10 to 16 foot shots on 20 attempts. So he's shooting the same exact percent at the actual rim, and then that's not even, and then I think it's broken down 5 to 10 feet, or 5 to 10. He's not shooting as well as he has from 10 to 16. He's shooting 63% on, quote, jump shots on 51 attempts. And oddly enough, 51% on what's considered a layup on 27 attempts. So his jump shot, which I have to assume is mostly one-handed, the one-handed jump shot that he's patenting right now, he's shooting those better than his layups at the rim. And also from cleaning glass, he is in the 93rd percentile for points per 100 shot attempts. I think for efficiency, there's your number right there. 93rd percentile. So there's only a few people in the league that are scoring more points per 100 shot attempts than him.
That's incredible. I just hope the regression isn't like he doesn't hit a shot for a month. What about your dud of the week?
All right, so last week this man was my stud. This week he was my dud. Jay Crowder. He played 30-plus minutes every game this week. Only averaged 7 points and 7 rebounds. Had a real stinker at Charlotte. 3 points in 31 minutes. 1 of 5 from the field. So for the week, he was a negative 6.5. So really, he played really well last week. Was hitting a lot of those 3-point shots that he's freely shooting. This week, not so much. But fortunately, Dylan and some of the other guys were able to step up and play above what they've been playing. And Jay just kind of he had a tough week this week.
He did. And another guy that I thought had a tough week was Tyus Jones. He seemed to hit some big-time floaters in, like, clutch situations, so I think it kind of masked his play. But he only averaged 5 points a game this week, shot 30% from the field and 10% from 3. He did have 5 assists per game, so he wasn't terrible like most of the other backup point guards we've had throughout the year, but I thought he just could have been better. And luckily, he did make some of those clutch shots to mask what I thought was a bad week for him. But to me, he kind of took a step back this week.
Yeah, he played well in the one game in San Antonio, and the others not so much. So I agree with you there.
But I mean, I really wasn't a lot of people to choose from. Like, I could have chose Jaren. He had a down week, but he also had a great week by the standards we're measuring him against. So
yeah,
wasn't a lot of people to choose from. So not that Tyus was horrible, but he's just, and you chose Jay, who was worse. So
we were talking a second ago about being really low amongst the league in free throw attempts. So for the week, Jonas, he averaged 25 minutes per game this week. So he's kind of getting up there in minutes. Not at that 30 mark, but he's over the like 15, 20 that he was for the first few weeks. He only averaged 1 free throw attempt per game. By my math, that means 4 free throw attempts in 4 games. So he's like just not getting to the line. He's
Yeah,
shooting. He's shooting. He's making. He made 21 of 22 for the season so far. But for the guy who's playing down in the post and getting all those boards, you would expect a lot more free throw attempts.
I mean, and Jaren can't be averaging many more per game, like maybe 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when you're starting center and power forward aren't, yeah, I got the numbers here. Jaren during the winning or during this week, 2.3 free throw attempts per game. So that's 3 free throw attempts between your starting 4 and 5
Yeah.
man. And Ja led the team with 5 attempts per game. You definitely want to see Jaren get into the line more, and you would think Jonas will just as a byproduct of his style of play. But just something that, we're definitely not doing. We're not getting bad whistles, I don't think. We're just not forcing the referee's hand to make
Yeah.
calls. I'm not sitting there screaming at my TV time after time. Not more than usual, at least.
Yeah. And JV is taken. He's being like left open at the top of the key pretty much.
Yeah.
So he's not. He is scoring pretty good and pretty efficiently, but he's just shooting really well from 3. Also, that doesn't hurt.
Yeah, and I mean, he came out tonight. He hit what 2 threes in the first quarter.
Yep.
Had a nice dunk. Looked like the Grizz might be able to extend the winning streak to 4 games, but then Jamal Murray just took over, and I think we got outscored 44-17 in the second quarter, and that was
Oof.
all she wrote. Trailed most of the second half by 30 points or so. Murray finished with 39 and 8. Paul Millsap had 23. He looked pretty spry. He looked
Spry.
spry.
Spry's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Um, not a lot of highlights from the Grizzly side. Jaren did hit 5 threes. Most of them came in the third quarter when we were, down 30 points.
Yeah. I think we got
But,
down to 33 or 35 at one point.
yeah, so it was a career high for him behind the arc. He finished with 22 points, and then we mentioned Brandon's 19 points on 8 of 8 shooting. Other than that, Ja had 13 and 6 and 4 turnovers. Nothing to write home about there. But we just hope we can bounce back and get ready for next week and try to win a couple games and stay in some games. Try not to get blown out.
Yeah. Like we did this week, you hang around, you can get lucky a couple times.
Yeah, because I mean, teams aren't going to be sitting around preparing for us heavily. Not a lot of the semi good teams, at least they're just going to take us lightly. Does look like teams are getting more tape on Ja Morant, figuring that he likes to go left. Just kind of, he's going to have to continue to learn what opposing defenses are doing to stop him. We've seen him step back and shoot the 3 when they go under now, and he's been pretty efficient shooting the 3 so far. We can't complain about that. What's he shooting? I feel like he's shooting like 40%. 41% from 3 for Ja Morant so far this season, and the game he's played 11 games now, so.
And they're not all like, oh, I'm totally wide open at the top of the key, I'm going to shoot this. A lot of them have been off the dribble, pulling up in transition. They've been not just super standard 3s too. He's also like making some things happen.
I mean, this dude is a fucking dog. Like he is an elite level scorer with the Mamba mentality already, and he wants to take your heart out. Like he didn't care that it was Mike Conley's homecoming. Like he had respect for it, but he just went right at Mike Conley from the jump of that game. And it's really exciting to know that we're going to get to cheer for him for years to come. And Jaren, too, like we saw last year, the game against Brooklyn when he scored 30-something. Like we've seen him be able to turn it on. So that's why we got to be patient when they have nights like this for Ja. And, Jaren, unfortunately, has had more nights like this recently. But in due time, they're both going to have a big game, and we're going to be like, that's
who we drafted. Yeah.
That's it. Like they're going to combine to score like 75 points or something. We're going to be like, holy shit.
I'm ready for that game. It'll be against I don't know who's real bad. besides, we already played Charlotte.
Yeah, we already
The Knicks. Maybe it'll happen against the Knicks.
Hey, yeah, we'll do it to Fizdale.
If he's still there at
Dude,
that point.
the Knicks are. I mean, first, what did they expect when they signed 17 power forwards? Like, did you expect to win games? Like, yeah, we got Bobby Portis, Julius Randle, Marcus Morris. Like, they all play the same position. But yeah, anything else around the league that's caught your eye? I think that's pretty much all the Grizz talk we have, unless you got some other stuff.
No, it covers it for the Grizz.
One thing I do want to hit on, and I researched this. I was wondering how many bigs have had good games against us, and the only ones I could remember were Anthony Davis, who like went ham on
like
us.
38 and 20 something.
Yeah, Baines from Phoenix, he had a good game, but most of his were from beyond the arc. I think he hit 4 threes that game.
He's doing that to a lot of people, though.
Yeah,
He's had a really good season.
Like, he is turning into like the Ringer website. Like, he is turning into like a Ringer player, I feel like, and like he's getting that cult of that cult following. Karl Anthony Towns had 25 on us. Pretty solid night, even though we beat Minnesota. Vucevic and Jonathan Isaac for the Magic had 23 and 22. And I was researching that because we keep talking about our pick and roll defense. I wish Sam was here because he gets just as irritated about it as I do, where we do that drop coverage. So when the guard comes off the pick, our big man just backs up behind the goal and guards have a field day. And I mean, that was when we had played 11 games and there were 4 solid performances from the bigs on the opposing team. So I'm just interested to see if we're going to continue to play that drop coverage, because for the most part this year it's been point guards or scoring guards who have just been lighting us up.
Yeah, that's definitely been starting back at the Chicago game when Kobe White had a ton of points. Kobe White and Zach LaVine, the two of them beat us. And most of those guys that you just mentioned, those are all-stars.
Right.
Like,
yeah, like
so
AD is supposed to do that.
Yeah, AD, Cat, and Vucevic, those are all-stars.
Right.
So, I mean, that's not like a knock to our big men. I think I'd like to research this a little bit more, but that JV does a lot of good when defending bigs, like one-on-one with them. His main problem is when the guards come in, he's not a rim protector in that manner.
Yep, and
he doesn't have the wingspan, the positioning. I think that's what's off. He sits back too far. He doesn't step up to meet the ball at all, and because I think he's too afraid of that dump pass off to the big man. So a lot of times the guys can just get right up on the rim and hit a little floater right over the top of him. I think that is kind of where he gets a little reputation for not being as great on defense.
Yeah, and I think there was a Reddit user from the Raptors last year when we posted an article or one of our episodes that we did saying like JV's not a great defender, and he said no, basically what you just said, like one-on-one he's great, but the scheme needs to maybe be more structured to fit his weaknesses or something like that. But it's him and Jaren, we're seeing both of them drop. So you got to help the helper, like Tony used to do. We used to make it work with Zebo, man. Anybody can play defense if your team is on a string and willing to, move and help enough. So just a matter of will. And tonight the Grizzlies didn't have that will against the Nuggets.
Nah, they're pretty gassed.
Yeah. Anything else in the NBA? Paul George is back and can't stop scoring. I think he's scoring at a ridiculous clip. He's played 2 games and is averaging like 30 points a game already. Hasn't played yet with Kawhi, so still waiting on that. The Lakers are still in first place. Portland's kind of sucking.
The Warriors keep having guys get injured.
Yeah.
So on the broadcast tonight, Pete and Brevin were talking about someone from the Warriors is like, I can't believe so many guys are getting injured. Like, when does this ever happen? Like, yeah, we definitely 2 out of 3 years, we had 28 different players on our roster. So we've definitely had that happen, literally to us.
Yeah, Warriors fans ain't getting no sympathy from Grizz Nation.
Get out of here.
We have been through it. We had 28 players.
Jordan Farmar started a playoff game for us, okay?
Yeah, I mean that, and it was like, well, we were like happy to have Andrew Harrison playing at that time. So, uh,
Forgot about that guy.
yeah, I hope he's doing well, man. He did have some nice blocks for us.
He caused a lot of conversation on this very podcast.
He did, and on Grizzlies Twitter in general. So, hope he's doing well, man.
Me too.
Um, yeah, the rest of the NBA, James Harden still can't stop scoring either. Anybody on your fantasy team that you've been surprised about that you're happy you drafted?
Honestly, I haven't been paying the due diligence to that I need to be. So, because I think in the 2 leagues and we've had 3 weeks, I think I've lost 6 times. So I got
Sheesh,
some work
man.
to do there. I've
Well,
been scouting out these Tigers opponents and everything, and it's just taking up some time.
you got some quick Tigers nuggets you want to hit us with?
Tiger Nuggets. Let's see. We got a guy we were in the running for, a power forward from West Memphis. He committed to Auburn.
Chris Moe.
Chris Moore. Dawson Garcia is I believe he's a 4-star guy. He's announcing Wednesday where he's going to go. And then really, we're still just waiting.
Not a lot of great highlight videos out there for Dawson Garcia from what I've been able to find on the YouTube.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm not going to say I'm worried, but it's like Jaren and his foul situation. Are you worried or are you not worried? Or does it change every day?
Hey,
Maybe it's like we really won't know until Christmas and Jalen Green what's really going to happen with this class because all the big dogs are filling up their rosters like Duke and Kentucky. They're almost full, I think, with Scallies.
I mean, we get Jalen Green. You don't really need too much else.
No, if you keep most of the team intact this week, but I'll put some nuggets together. I'll have an article out this week for sure. We play Arkansas Little Rock this week, and also Ole Miss. Ole Miss is no pushover, so.
Oh, and the home. Are we playing Little Rock at home?
Yes.
The homecoming of Preston Laird, who is an assistant coach at Little Rock. Hopefully, we get to see James Wiseman back. Zach had a great preview article before the Alcorn State game that had some statistics in there on the players, individual stats. You're wanting some more DJ Jeffries, huh?
Yeah, we need more. Damian Baugh, DJ Jeffries. That's going to be a big help to us. And Precious needs to shoot free throws better. He's shooting like 40%. He was 8 of 20 yesterday. Pretty tough.
I mean, I haven't seen a lottery pick out of him yet. So that's going to be interesting development to watch. So the narrative behind that, can Penny not develop players, or was Precious just actually probably raw as fuck and being identified as a lottery pick as a senior in high school might have been a stretch.
Right. We shall see. He's going to get the opportunity, especially as long as Wiseman's out. So we'll have to find out.
Man, I mean, he was taking it to the rack. So
he gets to the line more than the entire Grizzlies team, pretty much.
Yeah, he shot more free throws in that game on Saturday than the Grizzlies did in the whole 3-game winning streak. Probably.
Probably. Don't fact check us.
Next Saturday is a big day in Memphis sports. We'll have Memphis Ole Miss, I believe, is early afternoon. Then Memphis football at South Florida is middle of the afternoon, and then Grizzlies Lakers that evening. So that'll be a good day. That's all I got, man.
That's all I got. Go check us out. Subscribe to the Barnburner Podcast Network. Check us out, the-barnburner.com. We got other podcasts. We got a college basketball podcast called Theater and College Hoops. The guys are dropping episodes every few days on there. Check it out. I think that does it for us. Until next time.
Free James Wiseman.